Thank you, sir. Oh, we are live, huh? All right. Welcome, everybody, to Breaking into Professional Art. My name is DTM, Delta Tango Mike. I'm a loud talker, so I do not need a microphone. Yeah, I'm good at that. You can find me online, deltatangomike.com, social media, Delta Tango Mike. And if at the end of the panel discussion you want a stamp AKA sticker, I have some up here. They're free. Starting from this end to the all the way to the right, it is W, Chelsea, Alyssa, Kelsey, different from Chelsea, Kelsey, Havana, and then Wayman. And they each will tell you their social media and something about themselves. We're gonna start with their name, what's their passion, what are they working on, and anything they want to tell us about their professional art and where their passion lies, either in the creative side, the thinking side, etc. And then from there, I'm going to ask them a series of questions, and they'll answer us as best of their knowledge. And hopefully, you gain something from that today, and apply it to your own career in order to become a professional artist. Everybody here is working in the art field one way or the other, and it is our purpose of Artist King is to bridge that gap between the creative side of the person, that part where you're really good at doing something that you really like to do, and then finding out how much you need to charge for that to make that your lifestyle. All right, that's a real big deal for us. So follow artistking_ATL, and for more information on some of the tools and resources that are out there. And Chelsea will also speak some more of that and some of the hardcore work that C4 Atlanta is doing, along with my animation life and everybody else is out here. We really care about the arts. We care about the artist, that creative person. That's where we want to put in the work so that we can get rid of that starving artist mentality. Anybody who's ever heard that word starving and the word artist together, we need to get rid of that. Because nobody says starving dentist, nobody says starving mechanic. You don't jump out of school and say you're a starving hotel manager, right? So we need to get that same mentality into the art field. So we'll start from this end, work our way all the way over there, and we'll start with the ladies. So we'll skip you for now.
Oh.
We'll start with the ladies,
Okay.
and then come back to you, and then finish with Wayman, all right?
Awesome.
So Chelsea, please.
My name is Chelsea Steverson. By day, I serve as the operations manager for a local nonprofit called C4 Atlanta, just like it sounds, the letter C, the number 4. We do quite a few things for artists, but the core of what we do is educational training around business entrepreneurship. So we help teach you the skills that you didn't really get to learn in art school around maintaining a business. But then we also have a fair share of resources as well as a membership program that focuses on providing tools, resources, discounts around town, all kinds of things that will help make your life more sustainable. So that may be everything from our fiscal sponsorship program, like I said, to our networking and very member program, to our advocacy platform where we're advocating for artists' rights here in the city of Atlanta. So I do that by day. When I'm not C4, I am an actor and a visual artist myself. Which has kind of been interesting. I came to Atlanta as an actor and have actually moved more into visual arts in the 6 years that I've been here. And I work with a lot of artists. I actually say creatives because I've worked with everything from belly dancers to tattoo artists to illustrators in launching their businesses. And now I run a small arts collective that produces plays and productions here locally called Catalyst Arts Atlanta, and I currently am producing a podcast as well called North by Northwest. It's a Dungeons and Dragons podcast.
Do you sleep?
No, just plug me in the wall, Just plug me in the wall.
Recharge. Awesome. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
My name is Elisa Lewis, and I'm an animator, recruiter, and consultant. I started out in animation when I was really young. I've always known that I've wanted to be an animator. But now I run an animation resource and staffing agency, and I really found that passion with community service. My parents raised me always doing outreach to the community, and so reaching out with people in the arts has just been a natural thing. I am most noted for working on FX's Emmy-winning series Archer. animated and did a lot of the lip syncing, and some other roles we did were character rigging, environmental setup, that kind of stuff. I've also worked with NBC's 30 Rock, Animation Domination, San Diego Comic-Con, Captain Planet, the Planeteer Movement, just a bunch of animations in general. I really love animation. I've been with animation organizations like ASIFA South, which was formerly ASIFA Atlanta, and it's the largest animation society in the Southeast. It wasn't that when we first started, but myself and my partner, Fatima Abdullah, worked really, really hard with some other volunteers, and we brought it to that. So now our members can vote in the Annies, which is the equivalent of the Animation Oscars. So if you want to know anything about getting your film out there or promoting yourself as an animator, ASIFA South is a great resource, and you can ask me questions about it. I also do behind-the-scenes work. So you've got the front of the scene where you're showing your animation, and everyone's like, yay, it looks great. And then you get behind the scenes, which is the business, the contracts, the grinding, the negotiations, all of that. And that's what I work with now with my company, My Animation Life. We're an animation resource and staffing agency where we match artists with clients. And our biggest focus is to make sure that animators always know they have resources. We work with animation artists in the entire pipeline, so animators, illustrators, voice actors, script writers, but big star by animators, because that's where our heart is. We have the most inclusive animation map, calendar, and classified ads for Georgia. So if you're ever looking just for free resources where you can find how to get into that industry, it's on our website.
Awesome. Welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Jackson. I also go by BG Illustrations, which is Black Girls Illustrations. During the day, I work as a copy and print service at Office Depot, but at night, I write stories for my comic, my webtoon called A Slice of Life, which you can find on Tapastic. And when I'm also kind of like, as well as doing that, I'm an intern for Dan, and as well as trying to get clients to do children's books and stuff like that. So like I do, I write my comic, I do children's book, and that's a recent thing I've been doing now. So I spend most of my time trying to work on my drawing skills as well as find clients. So my job actually helps me find clients. I talk to so many people, and I get surprised by the people I meet, and they're just like, oh, you know what, you're an illustrator? You draw black girls? What? I need you to do my illustrations. So just me working and talking and communicating with people has gotten me in touch with potential clients and stuff like that. And so I also go on the internet, and I do cold emails and cold calls to see if anyone needs an illustrator. But yeah, so that's what I got for now.
Awesome. Welcome. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Havana Nguyen, and I have been fortunate enough to really achieve two dreams of mine. Number one, I don't have an art degree. My degree is in international affairs. For the past couple of years, or since when I got out of school, I did not work in a creative field. I worked in technology, which I have a genuine passion for. And at one point, about a year ago, I decided, you know what, I'm ready to do something creative in my 9-to-5. And through a lot of hard work, I was able to get into my dream field, and that is user experience design. So I'm doing something creative in my 9-to-5. But I also, for the past 4 years, I work on a comic called Kamikaze. This started off as a concept for an animated series, and for the past about 3 years, we've launched a webcomic. We have volume 1 out. Thanks to a Kickstarter last year, we were able to raise $13,000 in 30 days, thanks to our amazing fans. Well, and right now we have a Kickstarter running. I think it launched 4 days ago, and we're already 30% in, or 30% funded for volume 2. So it's been amazing. Not only am I working creatively in my 9 to 5 as a UX designer, I also work on an awesome comic with 2 other people.
Sweet. Well, welcome. Yes, sir. We'll start over here with W.
All right, my name is Dwayne Wright, also known as W. I'm an illustrator and designer, and currently I produce a traveling art exhibition called Art Beats and Lyrics. Our primary sponsor is Jack Daniels, and we travel the country doing 9 shows a season. How I started off, I went to art school at East Carolina, graduated, worked at a newspaper designing car ads. You know, that wasn't quite what I had in mind when I was in art school, but you know, I did that for about 11 months and I realized that wasn't going to work, so I left that job and it brought me down to Atlanta where I got a job doing web design. Did that for about another 11 months or so, and then I was on my own ever since. So I started off doing illustrations for magazines and clothing lines. Y'all remember like FUBU and all that back in the day? Okay, yeah. Echo, I did some of those ads and I designed some stuff for FUBU. And that led me to work with my business partner, Jabari Graham, and we did the first Art Beats and Lyrics, and Dan was involved in the show. You know, we go way back. And it was a cool event, and then we had a chance to do the High Museum years ago, about 2005, and we packed it out in a couple of hours, and the buzz from that enabled us to get a sponsor several years later, which is Jack Daniels, and now we're still on tour almost a decade later.
Sweet. Hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm the Mad Penciler. I graduated from SCAD with a degree in concentration in animation. I wasn't very fond of animation as I started get ready to graduate, so I focused more on illustration and character design. So right now I'm an illustrator / art instructor. I'm very passionate about anatomy and especially hands, so I created an ebook. And for most artists, if you draw at all, you know hands are like the devil for everyone. So I created the ebook because most artists try and hide their hands, putting it in their sleeves or their pockets, behind the back. You just need to draw hands. So every chance Dan asks me a question, I'm going to make you guys draw hands. It's just how it is. And that's pretty much it. I just love to draw. Thanks for coming out.
All right. Thank you. So my name is Dan, like I said before, and I've been a working artist for 20 years. I came to Atlanta way back in 1994 after spending 4 years in the Marine Corps. I'm born and raised in East LA, and I did not want to go back to LA because there's nothing there, not artistically, nothing creatively that I have seen growing up. But in the Marine Corps, I met people from all over the country. And so a lot of Atlanta people were telling me that Atlanta was coming up, it was going to be a great time to be in Atlanta, and the Olympics were coming in '96. So I came to Atlanta in '94, and a year later I started doing tattoos. I knew that when I came out here that I wanted to be some kind of artist. I didn't know what kind of art careers were out there. I never went to college, didn't go to art classes. I had no idea what was out there that I could possibly do with my talent. I just knew I wanted, whatever I did, I had to do with art. So I was here a year, and a friend of mine just dropped me off in front of a tattoo shop. He did not tell me about it that day. We were just riding around, and he stops in front of a tattoo shop and says, go in there and show them your portfolio. And that's one thing I always kept with me was my portfolio. I always kept some of my artwork. I always had a sketchbook. I always had some of my art materials with me. And so I walked in there and showed them my work. And their first question once I showed them my work was, do you want to learn how to do tattoos? And so my answer was yes. Now, of course, this is a long time ago. There were 5 tattoo shops in the whole state of Georgia. And now there's like 5 tattoo shops in every corner. So times were a little bit different. But to me, the opportunity to engage with my art and make that part of my actual living was what really attracted me to tattooing. And so 2 years later, I opened my own tattoo shop, and I had a crew with me. And then 8 years later, we shut down that tattoo shop, and I started my own personal art career. By then, I was really just focused on doing the art that I like to do, doing the art that gave me joy, that I feel attracted to, and that challenged me. And so that involved traditional media like painting and drawing, and also digital like Photoshop, Illustrator type of stuff. And so ever since then, I just kept on going and going. In the last few years, I keep getting emails and messages and conversations with artists asking me, how do I make money with my art? And so, of course, that's a big loaded question. And so that's where Artist King came from, where we try to find the resources and I tap into all the friends that I have who are professional artists and other people who barely know me. And I asked them questions and recorded those answers and created a podcast out of it, so that we can all share that knowledge that is out here and move with the tools and resources that we need to earn with our talent. So that's my story, and I'm gonna ask everybody to give an answer for the questions that I have. So everybody takes their time, and we'll start from that end and work with Wayman and work our way back to Med Penciler. And so can you name one or more obstacles that were in your way when you first started your art career?
Besides myself,
You were your own obstacle?
yeah, I was pretty much my own obstacle. I'm sure most artists can relate. You either want to do it sometimes and sometimes you don't. It's like, is this the right time or is this not the right time? For the most part, you just got to do it. If not, you'll never do it. And then for me, before it really took off, I had kids and family and life and stuff like that also was an obstacle. Those would probably be like the two biggest things. Fear of of succeeding. Someone had told me before, like, people are afraid to succeed. So that was also a thing that I had to overcome. Like, all right, people would always like, oh, you could draw really well, you should do that. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. So myself and then just family and time. So
Like, yes, ma'am.
I think for me, it's easy to want to do something creative, whether it's I want to start my own comic, I want to create an animated TV show, I want to work in animation, but it's a whole nother beast to actually follow through and actually bring those dreams to fruition. I think people have this idea that creativity is, pursuing creative pursuits are always just, fun, and if I have time, I'll work on my comic. If I have time, I'll work on my portfolio. It really requires a lot of discipline, and I had to learn that, yes, it's fun, but it's also work. Doesn't mean it has to be soul-sucking, but discipline is a huge part of it.
For me, since I'm a little new to this, similar to Wayman, it's really myself, because I'm still in that phase to where I'm like, all right, I'm working on a comic, but like, I want to kind of chill on the couch and watch Steven Universe rather than work on this. So the biggest obstacle is myself. And another thing is, because of that, I don't go out to pursue the resources that are out there that can help me succeed and go further with my career. So, like, if you don't take advantage of those resources that are out there, they're out there. Just like Elisa, there's resources that are provided for you, and you need to take advantage of it. And because of, like, I'm also, like, introverted. I don't really want to go out that much. That's a really big thing too. I don't go out to pursue those resources, so to help me out. So the biggest thing is like myself and not taking advantage of stuff that's out there.
I remember when I first started out, I had the passion of becoming an animator, but I didn't really have the means. I moved a lot when I was younger. My dad was in the military, and I didn't learn how to make friends as fast as a lot of my peers did. And I also have Asperger's, so connecting with people was really difficult. I would say once you're able to connect with people, you're going to be able to make them like you and want to help you when you're struggling. But if there's that wall, it just becomes a really difficult barrier to get help. And to even, especially if you're introverted, to even ask for help. So that was my biggest obstacle, and I'd say that going to SCAD and having a public speaking class was the jackhammer through the wall, or whatever tool you use to break walls. Yeah, that was that tool through the wall. because it forced me to give speeches and to talk to people, and we had group projects and things that I avoided like the plague. I was confronted with, and instead of backing away, I went forward with it, and that was definitely the breaking point for why I'm more extroverted today.
Sweet.
So I can talk about being a professional actor all I want, but I'll come at this from a perspective of working with 1,000+ artists every year that are attempting to launch businesses in whatever capacity that is, because I see repetitive, or I see repeats in the same struggles that a lot of artists come to our doors with at C4. And the first part of it is there is a mentality that as an artist, we cannot be business people as well. Because we're creative, we can't also run a business, which all of us up here will tell you that is not the case. And now more than ever, because of the fast-growing pace of technology and digital media and the way that art is consumed, you have to be able to compete inside the market. If you really want to be making money on your art, you have to be able to compete inside the market. And so sometimes I think artists have to get out of the mentality of like, well, I made the art, they'll come. That's not necessarily true. Just because you make it doesn't mean that somebody's going to buy it. And so using the resources and finding the additional education or the additional training that you need to be able to understand what it means to actually run a business. Do you have a business plan? Do you even know what a business plan is? Do you even know why it's important to aligning it with your goals that you have for your business? And even if your business is as simple as I would like to launch my own, animated show or comic book series, there's a piece of understanding of like, well, are you a sole proprietorship? Are you an LLC? Are you going to incorporate, become a nonprofit? Some of these questions are really important because it helps align and put you in a place for success. So the first step, I think, is understanding what your personal goals are. What do you want? What makes you unique to that? And then how do you find the additional training or resources you need if you don't know how to go about truly launching a business? And not being afraid to fail. It's okay to fail. It's actually part of creative process. It's what makes artists so different and creatives so different than everybody else. So feel free to fail and feel free to ask for help because there are people out there that want to help you make your business as great as it possibly can be.
Sweet. And you kind of skipped
Sorry, I
that
didn't mean
part
to
about
skip.
yourself and
I'm
went
sorry.
to my second question
Oh,
that I
well,
had
then
not
I'll-
asked yet.
I'll
But that's
hold.
okay.
I mean, I can,
It's
like I
all
said,
helpful.
I can talk about acting all day, but that is a whole separate cookie in terms
Right.
of issues of breaking into professional acting.
But it's your obstacle. I mean, like, did you have obstacles? Is something that kept you from going from that person who likes to act to then getting paid and being on stage?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm also a SCAD grad. Both of my degrees are from SCAD, and I think coming out of an art school, there's this simple idea of like, well, we've taught you how to make your art great. We taught you how to do the art thing. Now go out and make it happen. And so the real struggle in coming out of the doors of a training program and into the real world is that it's not that simple. And there are also things they don't teach you. That you don't have to go to New York or LA to be a professional actor. Let's just look at Atlanta for a second, right? You don't have to. What they didn't teach me was like acting is not simply being on stage or on screen. There's voiceover work. There are industrials and training videos. I've made more money doing industrials than I ever did, right? And so part of it too is recognizing that what you learn in an academic setting is not always the be-all, end-all. And so I had to overcome a lot of the barriers that I had, even on a mental level, of how to break that.
All right, there you go. Mr. W.
All right. One of the first obstacles that I had to get over, or challenges, was location. I'm from North Carolina. I grew up in a place called Fayetteville, North Carolina. And it's not the creative hub of the South. So what ends up happening is you feel like you're in a vacuum. And and you don't have a lot of the influences. And if you're trying to expand your career, sometimes where you are gives you a certain level of credibility. So when I had the opportunity to move to Atlanta, I was doing everything in my power to not get sent back home. So that was my mentality. I would go and when I would go to work, I'd be like, okay, for some reason I had this thing in the back of my head that one day the job I was going to have is going to be like, you're going home. That's what I was saying. You're fired. I'm sending you home. And I'm like, no, I can't go home. But so I had that attitude. Once I got the opportunity to get out here, there's no looking back. And you got to take every opportunity that you can. So That was an earlier obstacle.
Getting out from where you're from.
Yeah, getting out.
Yeah.
The thing is, once you get to the stage, a lot of people
Yeah.
want to get on the stage and start their career, but once you get on there, that's not the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the beginning.
That's right.
Now you really got to
Now you
play.
have to try to maintain and stay there.
Yeah, and you got to
move
keep
forward,
you got to keep growing with your stuff.
Right.
It's not just getting into a show is the end goal. No,
Yeah.
that's just one thing, and you got to keep having new obstacles and new challenges to keep pushing you forward.
Right. And I think I had that similar case where, of course, LA is a big town. It's a big old village. And it has arts, but where I come from, that the arts were not one of those things that you get into. It's something that you do on the side. It's a vandalism, and if you get to do a mural, that's great. And there's lots of murals in LA, but that is not something that you're kind of encouraged and developed. It's and then of course social economic situation in LA and where I'm from is really terrible. So the opportunity is not there. But once I got out and I saw the world in the different eye and mindset, I know that I don't want to go home. I go visit. I stay in LA for a week or two, and that's it. But I don't want to live there because I feel that my opportunities and the sphere of influence is greater wherever in a new place or another area of the country. And Atlanta has been great to me. So yeah, I feel that you have to get out. That's one of those things that sometimes you just have to leave where you are.
Yeah, you got to go where the game is.
That's right. Go where the game is.
Wherever that game is, whatever you want to do, if it's another city, if it's another country, you got to go where that is.
So I'm sure that you all come across artists who want to show you their portfolio and want to get your advice on how to make money with your art. And so just an example, I get these messages all the time. I have a meetup on meetup.com for Artist King, and one of the questions that when you register as a member of Artist King, which is free, is that what kind of advice are you looking for, creative or business? And sometimes the response that I get is, how do I make money with my art? And that's a very broad question. And so one of the things I like to tell people is, artists is, well, what kind of art do you want to do? Let's start with that. And that's where the conversation really begins. But I want to ask each one of these panelists here, we'll start from this end and work our way all the way back, is what do you see that emerging artists need to focus on first? Once they have the talent, whether or not they have the talent, beyond that, what's one thing they should focus on? And you don't have to say more than one, because then that gives everybody opportunity to think of something else. Go ahead.
So you're saying this is beyond
For an emerging artist,
for an
beyond the
emerging-
talent. Yeah, we're not talking
Okay.
about the talent.
Well, I would say skills. Talent is a good thing to have. A lot of people have talent, but it's skills is what's going to get you paid. Being able to diversify your skill set. It's cool that we can draw. That's fine, but now we have to diversify your skill set. Now, what can you draw? How are you applying those drawings? Are you painting? Are you doing it digitally? What could you apply? What industries need those things? So I would say definitely expanding your skill set.
All right. That's a good answer.
Yeah, I'll build on that because I think too. No, any artist that I talk to, no artist is like, well, I just draw pictures. That artist is probably going to go, no, I paint, right? I have a digital. You have this, you as a self have a vast portfolio of your offerings, and when artists come through my door and they're really starting, especially these emerging artists, I like to sit them down and go, how do you break that down? It's okay for you to have a day job that might be what's bringing in the income for a while you balance that with your artwork. But you need to have a vast portfolio, and I don't mean just the artwork itself, but a vast portfolio of offerings. If you can draw, or if you're great with kids, you can also be teaching to bring in income, right? And you're going to go through multiple phases of your creative career where sometimes you're going to be doing 3 or 4 or 5 different jobs until one of them really takes off, and then you can put all your efforts into launching that comic book, and then that now takes over your time and your energy. But I think there's a misconception that if you're a painter, all you can do is paint on canvas and sell those. And I think it's actually a detriment sometimes to the emerging artist when you're not expanding your creative offerings and recognizing the many opportunities of how you can apply that and make money.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I feel a lot of artists don't know how to pitch themselves. So once you've got your body of work, it's important that you know how to go to people and ask for them to employ you for your services. If you've ever done contracting or any kind of work where it requires you to place bids or to go out and meet people so that you can get offers or to interview for something, those are ways to get skills into negotiating with people about what terms they can take you on as. So we have an artist alley out here at MomoCon, and you could be having a table at MomoCon. I have a table. It's my first time in the artist alley, and I don't consider myself someone who makes a lot of tangible art to sell, but I sat out there anyway. I am promoting my business, but I'm also showing the small things that I do that are tangible, and it's a way to connect with people more than anything. So if you do make a lot of tangible art, it behooves of you to take advantage of that when you have community galleries or when you have like art walks, that kind of stuff. You've been to places where you've seen art. Make sure your art is there and that you're able to speak face to face with people and practice getting people to purchase what you sell.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would definitely say promoting yourself and how to do that and have that be beneficial to you, and also being consistent so you have something to back that up with. Like, you can talk about yourself like, oh, I do this, I do that, hire me, but you also have to have, the work to show it. So that's pretty much it I have to say for that.
Awesome.
For me, people aren't just going to magically know that you're an artist or what kind of art you produce if they don't see it. Just to piggyback off of what you said, I encourage artists to publish and share their work on social media. Like, even when I'm not looking for client work, I get a lot of clients asking me to do stuff because I do post a lot of my art, a lot of works in progress, a lot of finished work on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all of the above. And I'll just get random requests, even for a skill I don't even have, like animation. Like, I do graphic design, illustration, but never do I tell people that I do animation. And yet I get so many requests. And I get requests for all kinds of creative work just because I put it out there. A lot of artists are afraid to share their work, either because they're afraid of their artwork getting stolen or they feel like it's not good enough. No, even if it's just works in progress, people are on social media all the time, and you want to stay on their radar. And so the next time they get an opportunity where I need someone creative for this, they'll think of you immediately.
Awesome.
Yeah, so my thing would be is how often do you do what you say you do? Again, I'm a hit y'all over the head with draw on hands. So when someone asks me, no, seriously, like, that's a serious passion of mine. So when someone asks me like, hey, here's my artwork, can you critique it, or, where should I go next? My immediate next thing to them is draw 50 right hands and draw 50 left hands. I'll draw 100 both right and left. And then if they do that, then we can talk further. But if you're not doing something every day, like, I draw daily. I have a personal time from like 5:30 to about 7 in the morning, and I'll just draw whatever is in my head or whatever I see. I'll draw some of their stuff. I don't care what it is. I draw every day. And if you're not doing that, then you're pretty much wasting your own time. And I don't want to be like a jerk about it, but that's just how it is. I mean, if you want to make money or you want to break into the professional art, you have to do that every day. And you have to, like they were saying, let people see that you do that every day. Because if not, why are you doing it?
Right.
So,
By the way, I bought your ebook. It's only $5 and it's amazing. It's so good.
so yeah, go get the ebook. Draw 50 hands right now while you're sitting. But yeah, just how often are you doing
Right.
what you do?
No, but you have to be passionate. You want to have to draw every day. Like, it's got to come out of you. And I've been sitting in panels all day, just like in the crowd, like you are right now. And I had my tablet out and I was drawing. I was working on my art. I was working on my craft. And it's something that W has said before, and I'll say it for him, because he says that you have to love it. you have to love this art thing you're doing. Because if you don't love it,
Like, you like it or you love it. Because if you like it, you approach it differently than if you love it. Just like if you love someone versus if you like someone, you know. And if you really love what you do, you're going to make the certain decisions and sacrifices or whatever for it. And one of those may be you may have to spend a lot of time working really hard, drawing all the time to get the skills up.
by yourself.
By yourself.
That's right.
Alone.
Yeah.
In an audience.
Right.
or an audience, you know.
So, and that's the thing that everybody's kind of mentioned some of the things, including drawing every day, being consistent, and it doesn't matter what craft it is, you have to practice it, you have to work on it. And to me, diversifying your talent could also be where, because you paint, you don't just try to sell that painting, you kind of find ways to market that painting through other mediums like prints and merchandise so that you can earn with your talent before you get to that level where the paintings are flying off the shelf. You know, that's kind of a way to diversify. You're still working on the paintings, but you're finding ways to run a business with your artwork and so on. Promoting consistently, I know that I like to promote on Instagram a lot. Matt Pencil is like the master at it right now. He's about to hit, how many, 60,000?
50.
50,000? 50,000 followers on Instagram.
I didn't
And-
pay for them.
I'm sorry?
I didn't pay for those
You
followers.
didn't pay for them, right? They came willingly. They came willingly. And that's sort of the practice of showing off your skills and sharing with the world. And then people are going to react to that. Me, I like to brag, right? I like to talk and brag about my work and my talent. And so what I have done in the past is connected with people that who have money and I never really paid attention. You don't know who you're talking to sometimes. And it's one situation, the CEO of a company, he texted me and said that he'd been watching my Instagram and he's ready for some murals at his business. And I did not know he was paying attention to my Instagram, which is one of the reasons why my wife tells me to be careful about the things that I post. Because, you know, you get emotional, you're an emotional person. In today's world, you kind of share everything about yourself. But you have to keep some level of professionalism because you want to market yourself as an artist who people want to work with. So, unknown to me, this CEO was following my work, and he asked me to do some murals at his business. And so I went to the warehouse, saw the spaces, and next thing I know, I'm designing 4 murals that I knocked out in 2 weeks' time, and I got paid a lot of money for that. That's kind of the reasons why having a portfolio, showing your craft, sharing with the world, it gives you that advantage of people seeing what are you good at and then seeing how they can best fit, wanting to work with you, that you're a good person, reliable, you're consistent, and then somehow bringing you in. But you have to understand how to promote yourself and talk to people. So once the person reaches out to you, what is your process? And I'm going to ask them what's their process. Because I have a process when somebody gets in touch with me and says, Dan, I want you to draw something for me. I'm like, great, let's talk about it. But let me let you understand that I charge for the stuff that you're going to ask me to do. So before we get too far, know that you're going to have to pay me. And I have a process that I take people through that so that we don't spend 2 hours talking about it. It's so great, it's so awesome. And then when I say how much, then they're like, oh, yeah, so we'll talk about it, you know, next time I get paid. And so what is some of the process that you have? And we'll start with Wayman and work our way back over this way. And how do you talk to people when they say they want to work with you?
I pretty much don't. And like, not that I don't like guide them to somewhere. So like my website is already set up to where if someone is like, hey, I want to hire you for logo design or portrait work or whatever type of digital art or something, I just send them directly to the website. Everything is listed there, what my services are, and when I see the money hit the PayPal account, that's it. And then I get to work. You know, I'll contact them back and say, hey, I received your payment. Now we could talk. But before then, there's no need of me saying anything because, like Dan was saying, you know, it'd be like, oh, yeah, I want you to do this. And then, you know, you tell them the price, and it's like, well, you know what? I'm going to have to wait until, nah, I ain't got time for that. Yeah. Got to make some money. So I just send them to the website. That's it.
Okay. Evan? She's rich.
Back when I was freelancing heavily, whenever people would talk about, oh, I would love for you to do my logo, or I'd love for you to do a book cover. Sometimes a lot of other designers and creatives are a little nervous about, okay, are they offering me money or are they offering me exposure? Which is annoying. But basically, I tell them, I would love to work with you. By the way, my hourly rate is da-da-da. Let me know if you want to move forward or not. And that saves you a lot of time if you can address it immediately, because I've always hated going through the project brief and like starting a conversation with understanding what they're looking for, and then at the end, oh, well, I don't have any money, but I'll give you equity, or I'll pay you when it makes money. And a lot of creatives run into that problem.
All right, so for me, it's so I get people coming to me for children's books because I do illustrations for children's books, and since this is slightly new to me, I'm still learning the process myself. But what I've discovered is that when I meet a person, or even off the website, email, or off the street, I tell them what I do, and they become interested, and there's like, hey, can you do some illustrations for me for my book? And I'm like, oh, sure. Just to let you know, I charge this amount. This is how long do you need it? I go down the list I have, like, do you already have the script and everything, like the stuff and everything, and what's your budget and all that stuff? And I just go down the list, and if they are like, oh yeah, I can totally do that, and then I'm like, all right. If they sound passionate and stuff and really into it, I will give them the chance. I'll sit down with them for 30 minutes somewhere at library or something, and actually go through what they want and everything. And if it sounds potential, I tell them, hey, this is the down. I actually am now doing, instead of charging hourly, I do a down payment. So I tell them, hey, you need to pay me this amount, this half, right, by this date, and then I'll start on the illustrations and give you heads up of how the progress is going, and I'll send it to you, and you pay me the rest, and you get everything. And after that, that's it. You can come back to me again and be like, hey, let's do another one, and tell your friends and family. But that's kind of how I do it. I like to talk to you, then give you a chance, and if you got the potential, I'll be like, hey, here you go, pay me, do it, pay me again, bye. All right.
When I first started out, I used to give everyone a consultation. So people would say, oh, could you do this logo, or could you do this stop motion thing for me? And I would say, okay, sure. We'd do a consultation. I'd figure out exactly what they were looking for. I'd try to give them an estimate on how much it would cost, how long it would take, maybe some troubleshooting things I may see in advance, like maybe this is going to be an issue, that may be an issue, we'll figure it out along the way. And then I would draft up a contract and start working. I would get my payments in either milestones or in upfront and end payments. And that kind of wore me out. Just a lot of that, of feeling people out and having to use my intuition. And like I said before, I had a lot of issues with connecting with people, and I wouldn't understand if this was someone I should be working with or I shouldn't. Just relying on my intuition on whether someone's personality or their body language was one of somebody who could pay you for a job wasn't something that I could do and still, have passion at the end of the day. When I got a job at a studio working on television animation, I thought that was a huge relief because I would have one reliable person who would pay me every 2 weeks. But then when I left and started doing my own company, I had to be the advocate for a lot of other people. So there'd be artists who are looking to work with clients, and now I have to use the same skills that I learned before to advocate for them. So I had to kick it up a notch. And start from scratch. I took a lot of courses on negotiations, on contract writing. I talked to other recruiters, just full haul. When you have to do something because other people are relying on you, you'll find that you have a lot more energy and drive and resourcefulness than you've ever imagined that you had. And now, the way I do work with clients is, if you are someone who I don't know, I do not do work with you. I contract you out to one of the artists in our database. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of artists in our database. So I can find someone who is exactly what you're looking for. It's my job to focus on the back end to make sure that contract is solid, that we negotiate for a fair rate that both sides are happy with, that if there's any hitches along the way, there's like an issue or something, that I'm the first person to solve it so that both parties can stay relaxed and calm and enjoy the project completion process. When it comes to doing my personal work in animation, which I still do, I only take that from people I have established relationships with. So if it's my friend or even someone that I just met, as long as I have felt comfortable enough that I can understand the way they speak to me and whether they're leading me somewhere or not, when they seem more trustworthy. So for my personal work, I deal with people that I already know.
So I'll come at this question. Before I came to C4, I was doing a lot of consulting with individual artists, with film companies to run their crowdfunding campaigns and to do some of this back-end stuff for them. So one of the things that I think is really, really important is understanding what your values are and what your artist goals are, so that you can make those really informed decisions as to whether or not this is right for you, whether or not that job or that commission is right for you. And I say that because as an artist, you can't be all things to all people. You just can't be. Like, you can't, you will run yourself ragged. And there is a necessary thing called work-life balance that a lot of artists sometimes don't realize exists until they have just run themselves into the ground. So understanding what your values are, and then really being honest with the customer, whoever it is that's requesting. So when people used to come to me, I would take a consultation, give them 30 minutes of your time, just 30 minutes, and ask them. And the first question I always ask is, what are you about? I don't want to know what you do for your day job. What do you love? What are you passionate about? Because that single conversation that you have with somebody, you're going to know instantly whether or not they align with your value set. And so for me as a consultant, I wanted to hear people that weren't just making a film because they wanted to make big bucks, right? I will run your crowdfunding campaign, but I don't want to do it if you're simply here to be the next big blockbuster. I want to do it because your film has something to offer my community, right? And so tying in with the value set that I hold so that, again, I can make those informed decisions as to whether or not my time is worth it. Because in the end, you also want to just be creating art. And you don't want to be bogged down in doing a ton of commissions for 1,000 different people and a logo over here and a comic book strip over here and a website design over here, because then when do you have time to serve yourself and the creative desires that you have? So I would say the first step for me was always talk to the person, consult with them, figure out where they are and make sure it aligns with me and my passions, and then I can make better decisions on for my business.
Sweet.
Yeah, we said it before. Someone on the panel said it already. Is that it's about getting once somebody contacts you via email or however they hit you up, whether it's social media. I've had that happen. People hit me up on Instagram. I have a project for you that you see if you're interested in. It's all theory until they put the deposit down.
Yep.
You can have the most incredible ideas, murals, landscapes, whatever you want to do, paintings, portraits, but until they work out a deal with you and put a deposit down, it's just conversation. Sometimes spec work is cool and sometimes spec work is not. You don't want to get in the habit of doing a bunch of free work, because that leads to doing more free work, and that's a problem. But once you get to the point where you can start saying, okay, this is the rate for what I do, this is what I'm looking to get out of it, this is what you get out of it, and you be very clear about what the expectations are, because ambiguity is expensive. People's expectations can get real crazy when it's not set really clear. So if you know what they want, they know what you're looking for, and they put the deposit down, that's the green light to get things going.
Yeah. Be specific. Awesome. All right, so a lot of times I come across projects where I need other artists. And so I, like Alyssa, I keep a track of certain artists that I know I like to work with. Alyssa's a lot more professional about it because she has a pool and she has a whole thing. But so my way is I get to know artists and their work, and sometimes I call on them so that we can work together on a specific thing. And one of my pet peeves is that they're not ready to have an art business conversation. That's it, you know. So you're talented, you're very creative, and then we start talking about the business, and they either don't respond, don't know how to respond. They don't have a website. They don't have a portfolio that is professional enough to show off, to tell their talent. So please tell me, and in no particular order, if anybody wants to jump in at any time, what are your pet peeves about emerging artists, and what would you like to see an artist have on their website once they put together a website? What must be there that you look for that you wish they had it right? Go.
I think for like what most of y'all been saying is just like the consistency of an artist doing what they say they do. And as far as like the website or something, just again, whatever you're saying you do, that should be on your website. Like, you know, you go to my website, you'll see anatomy stuff there, or you'll see storyboards, or you'll see portraits. Like, I want to flood the internet with what I do. And if you or any of you, whoever was like, hey, we want to hire Wayman, Wayman better have some anatomy stuff up there, or he better have some portrait stuff. If not, I'm going to the next person. And I want to see that for all of you guys, or whoever's out there trying to do whatever. Have what you say you're doing out there, and don't come half-assed.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead. You about to say something? Well,
I'd say for me, a contract is super important. You want to talk about something that sets you apart from other professional artists? Having a contract, one, if somebody signs it, that means that they're bound to pay you. They have to. A contract is a business agreement, and a lot of artists don't have them. And they don't use them, and I'm not sure why, because it is something that's really, really important for your business. Even if it's just a one page, it doesn't have to be a giant contract. It can simply be an MOU, right? Or some kind of small understanding agreement that's like, you're giving me dollars, and on black and white, ink on paper says, this is what I give you in return. Which means that they have to uphold to their end of the bargain just as you do. I think a contract is a really, really, really important piece. It helps protect the artist, and it also, like I said, it helps set you apart. It makes you look and be professional. That being said, about websites, if you're an artist and you don't have a website, my question is why? Why? I teach a website boot camp class for artists that don't come from like a web design type thing, and so in terms of what you need on that website, I would say, who's your customer? Remember, your website it displays you, but it is not for your use. It's for a customer's use. I'm not coming to my website to buy a thing off my website. Somebody else is coming to my website. So ask yourself, who is your customer? Do you know what they look like? Do you know why they're there? So you may need to do, before you can really build a very, in my opinion, high-functioning website that serves you and serves your customer, know who they are. And start making some guesses. Sometimes that's the easiest way to do it.
or know who you want your customer to be.
Or who you want it to be.
Who you
And
want
know, and know who they are. And when they come to your website, what do you want them to do? I want them to buy my artwork. Well, you better have a place they can buy artwork then, right? I want them to be able to contact me. Well, maybe you need a contact form. I want them to check out my art gallery or see all my different offerings. Then you got to have them out there, right? Think about your customer. Your website is not for your use. It is for the patron, the audience's use to be able to connect with you. And if you're missing basic things like contact information, social media links, a gallery of your artwork, you're missing an opportunity to monopolize on actually making money on what you do.
As a recruiter, I would say your website needs to have your contact information, and not just the form that says fill in your name, all that slows the process down. So if I get a request for something that's highly specialized and I don't have a lot of artists in the database that do that one thing, and I scour the internet with my team and we find your website and we have to fill in a bubble, and I need to speak to the client in the next 2 hours about what artists we may be offering them, then you're not going to be put on that list. But if you have your email at very least, and even better, huge star by phone number, I can call you and say, hi, I just saw your website, and I can solicit you on the offer. That's even better. And my biggest pet peeve when dealing with artists that are just breaking in is them not taking any of the advice that I tell them. So if I give you an hour or an afternoon where you get to pick my brain over lunch or coffee, and then a week later, a month later, years later, I find out that you're in the same exact spot as where I met you, then I'll be really upset.
That's right. Anybody else?
Ah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, there's two things.
Two things, all right?
One, slashes in your job description.
Slashes.
So you meet folks and it's like, well, I'm a painter, slash, designer, slash, tax attorney, slash, massage therapist, slash, landscaper, slash. You know, it's like, be specific on your website what you do. If I'm going for art, I want to see artwork.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and also be consistent in what you do, because I produce a traveling art exhibition. We have 100 yards of art space to fill with artists. And it surprises me how many artists only paint when it's time for an art show.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, where's the show coming up? Okay, I better get in the studio. Like, you should always be in the studio. You know, you should always be creating. You should always be creating it. If you're not actually making it, you should be thinking about what you're going to do and planning for it. So I guess it's like, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
and just keep in that creative mind state. So
That's one? Or is that
that's
two?
both of them. Yeah, be specific on what you do and stay ready. Yeah.
That's right. Artist statement. Who thinks an artist statement is important? Let's say one person. Everybody else like, who cares?
Well, in animation, I don't really hear people asking for artist statement.
I mean, nobody asks for it, right? It's like any organization's mission. Nobody's like, well, what's your organization's mission? People don't ask for that. But I do think it's important, at least in terms of being able to explain who you are as an
Yeah.
artist, to have some, even if it's 2 sentences on a website of like, this is what makes me unique and awesome. That is your artist statement. What makes you unique and awesome? I think that they're very important, because I could go to 1,000 animators' websites, but I want to know why this animator.
When you're looking at everybody as an equal, what is that one thing that pushes the
yeah.
one right over the other? That's what I think. That's how I look at it.
I'm gonna say that it's controversial because as someone who's in like the moving media, looking at your text, unless it's telling me what program you use and how long you've been doing it, I'm not reading your bio. I'm not reading anything like that. I only have a little bit of time
You wanna
to
see the
decide
work.
whether you are
about the
capable
work.
of doing it or not.
I got you. Very good. Cool. All right, so we're running out of time now. Do we have any questions in the crowd? Anything else anybody like to say or jump in? Yes, sir. We have that hand going
Excited
on.
hand.
So go ahead, ask your question, and then we'll go on with you. Next. Yes, sir.
Hi.
Hello.
I have a question. This question is kind of similar to what I've asked a couple people. But what, like, each of you are like, you know, illustrators and stuff. Am I right?
Illustrators,
Yeah.
animators,
Yeah.
everybody, yeah.
Okay. Well, for the animators, this is a separate question. What, I asked this earlier, what animation, like what shows that you watch that inspired you to want to do animation? And for the illustrators, what drawings or like artists or even comic books themselves, what comics made you want to actually start?
Man, that's a good.
Very good. All right. Somebody like to start throwing out your influences?
Well, I started my desire to animate when I was 2, watching Bugs Bunny, being drawn to life. I remember seeing that and having this revelation that that is something you can do for a living. And I knew that jobs were a thing. Like, people, when they got older, had to attach to a task. So I was like, that's the task I'm going to attach to. So that really inspired me. There was a second part to your question. What was it?
If you're an illustrator.
Like for illustrators,
Oh, okay, yeah.
illustrators with like maybe comics or like artists, maybe what inspired you? Just like what cartoon? what
Yeah,
inspired
that was the cartoon that did, and then what inspired me more so to do my animation life, my staffing agency, was the watching the strong people around me who have had obstacles to overcome and how they've reached back and pulled up other people. There's a woman, Ashley Kohler. She's an executive director here in Atlanta for Awesome Inc. And I heard her story coming from another state and all the challenges she went over, and just hearing that when I was still in school made me think, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter what challenges are in front of you. You can still make it, and there are great ways for you to reach back, even if it's just by telling your story.
Sweet. Anybody else like to answer that question?
Yeah, I think as far as like illustration, and I didn't go into comics or anything, but Todd McFarlane was a huge, man, that dude rearranged how he drew comics and the way, pages were laid out and stuff. And then those two dudes on the end over there also influenced me very heavily.
This
So
guy right here.
I picked Dan too, sorry. I picked Dan, he helped influence me.
There's a,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You got it, Havana.
No. My parents were immigrants, and they were super paranoid about, me being outside the house at all. So I grew up very sheltered, but I had Disney movies. I loved animated movies, and that's been a lifelong passion of mine. So I draw inspiration from Disney movies, but also Bruce Timm. He did the animated Batman series in the 90s. My motivation to draw is not only to express myself, every artist says that, but I also love that it's such a simple way to bring delight to people. When I was growing up, I had no idea, like up until I actually went to public school in kindergarten, I had no idea that people don't know how to draw. So when I went to class, I would see everyone draw stick figures, and I thought I was doing something wrong. Like, am I drawing wrong? And I saw that, like, even though I couldn't speak English until I was about 5 or 6, and I couldn't communicate with people, but I loved seeing how happy people got when they would see me draw. And I loved, like, being able to delight people, and that's, my 30 years, I'm still doing that.
Awesome.
there was 4 artists that I could think of outside of my friends and loved ones that really influenced me. One is Norman Rockwell. He wrote a book called How I Make Paintings. I checked it out in college, and like a fool, I returned it to the library. I should have never done that. I should have kept that book. It broke down his whole process of creating, from picking the models and all that, and that opened my eyes to that. Another artist is Alphonse Maria Mucha, very known for Art Deco. He had an art show in North Carolina, and I saw his sketchbook, and that just changed. From that day, I was like, I'm doing my sketchbooks like this. So that really stepped up my sketchbook game. Another artist is Sebastian Kruger. If you're not up on Sebastian Kruger, get up on Sebastian Kruger. Every morning, this man wakes up knowing he's the baddest man on the planet. He is that nasty with his stuff. I saw his book in college, and that became like my style Bible. I took a lot of influences from his book, and I would say a lot in the contemporary world, I would say artists like Kadir Nelson. Mm-hmm. I love the way he paints people, love the way he paints skin, and the way he combines like flesh tones and skies. So those are some people. If you're not up on those folks, if you get a chance, you should definitely check them out.
Yes. Kelsey?
Yeah, I would. This is kind of strange, but when I went to school, I went for fine arts, and I actually didn't go in for illustration. I went in for sculpture and ceramics. So I know y'all don't want to hear that, but my passionate people were like sculptors and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But as I progressed in my ceramics career, and I started to see like certain artists combine their illustrations with their ceramics, and I was like, I actually do love drawing, but I do love ceramics. So at some point, I decided to combine my drawings and my ceramics, and so I have like artists like I can never pronounce her first name, Yayoi Kusama. She's like this. She's a big thing. She makes paints all these dots in like a room or the stickers and stuff like that. Those are people I look up to. But for really my illustrations, like anime, cartoons, anything is my inspiration. It's just too many. But and definitely the just going out into the world and just seeing people are my inspiration. You know, I like what I do. I draw black girls a lot. I draw men too, but I love drawing black women. I love drawing their hair and everything. And just seeing us out there is like amazing to me. We're like, I love the different texture, different skin color we have, the different body shapes. That's my inspiration, really. So,
Sweet.
Yeah.
Frank Frazetta, Frank Miller, The Biz, Simon Bisley, and I have one more and I forgot. All right. So please ask your question, and then everybody's going to give their social media so you can follow.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, my first question was gonna be way longer, so I shortened it down. As a comic artist, I know that I'm kind of a slow artist when it comes down to my stuff because I am really determined to be perfect. And would it be better to like just put my comic website on, like my Tapastic account, like on hiatus and make a few pages and then like post on a weekly basis, or just kind of jump in there and be like hoping for the best?
I would, if you're really detail oriented, like I'm gonna tell you now, I am too. Like, I love details, but so I had the similar issue too. Like I would draw women and men very detailed, especially in their clothing and stuff, and it'll take me like a week and a half to do one drawing. Like this is how bad it is. So for me, I had to I knew that I wanted to put out a comic like every week or every 2 weeks. So I had to dumb down my style to where I was satisfied with it. So that's just me. But I would say do your one do like maybe every 2 weeks if it takes you that long, and just be consistent with it. I wouldn't go on hiatus and just disappear and then come out with like 5 comics. It seems kind of like inconsistent to me. Like people are expecting a comic every time you post something. They expect it to happen that same time that next week, you know. So if it takes you a little bit longer, just every 2 weeks or every month, be like, hey, there's a comic coming out this month, January, February, check it out.
I think too, be transparent with your audience. That is something that makes you unique to me, as somebody that doesn't know you or your art, that you work in high, fine detail. So there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with using your social media as a way to show process versus product for you if it's taking you longer, and to be able to tell your story of like, I'm a highly detailed artist. Today, all I got done was this, but look at what I got done.
Havana, you worked with Kamikaze putting out one page at a time.
Yes. It's nice to have a buffer. Something that the Kamikaze team does, if we're for some reason falling behind, or we're like, okay, we're staying up at 3 a.m. too much, something's happening, something's wrong here. Something that helped us was we started timing or keeping track of time, how long each page was taking. Collectively, between the 3 of us, it was taking 80 hours for a page. So because we broke down the time for each step, we were able to troubleshoot which part was taking the longest and learn how to then improve that process or that step.
And reach out to each individual artist to get more answers, because we have to be done. So social media.
The Mad Penciler.
Social media.
2Ds.
Havana Tweets on Twitter.
BG Illustrations, Instagram, Twitter.
Yep.
Find me on Facebook at either Elisa A. Lewis or My Animation Life.
If you want to find C4 Atlanta, that is the letter C, the number 4 Atlanta, across all the handles. If you want to find me personally, I am Little Red Dot.
Awesome.
I am W on Instagram. That's spelled DUBELYOO. If you type in DUB, you'll see an orange logo, and that's me.
And I'm DTM, Delta Tango Mike. You can go to the Facebook page for MomoCon and this panel, and you'll see all the info and the links.
Okay.
You can find us. We're gonna take a selfie, and then you can talk to these
Come get
guys
stickers.
and pick up stickers. All right?
Oh, I'm also in the Artist Alley at table 13. You can
Yes.
come to our table.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
There we go. Snacks.
Do you want a
Take a picture.
picture?
At the table, sitting
Yeah,
with our
um,
microphones?
Yeah, do you want to do it out
Like
there?
it's, like it's a
Yeah,
press
there we go.
conference.
Yeah, wait, we're just kind of like a press conference.
Yeah.
Here, let me-
I feel like LeBron.